AskReddit by Water Hoo. What are some of the signs someone is a horrible person deep down? The narcissist's prayer. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. And you are never allowed to bring up something horrible they did BC it's in the past. Aka 1 month ago. 1. No sense of accountability. It's never their fault. And if it is, no it isn't. 2. Entitlement or self-importance. They are always the most important person. No one else's successes or problems are as big as theirs. No one's story is as interesting as theirs is, so of course you want to listen to them. 3. If someone has shown they don't take no well, in any capacity, no matter how politely you've tried to express it or how many compromises you try to make. If they are not safe to say no to, they are probably a bad person. You know my sister-in-law, too. Several of their adult children will not talk to them and they don't understand why. https://www.iceandday.com/psychology/estrangement/missing-reasons.html. Edit, link. I recently had someone show me an email from one of her daughters, saying the daughter was cutting contact because she had told her mother as a child that her stepfather was sexually abusing her and the mother had done nothing. She literally handed this to me while saying how she was so unlucky to have terrible children who don't speak to her anymore. She actually thought this email showed her as being the good guy because she wasn't the one who cut contact. This is the state of self-delusion that some people exist in. I teach kindergarten and rarely and certainly not frequently I have encountered children who truly take pleasure in hurting other children physically or emotionally. It's super disturbing to see that type of behavior out of a child so young, especially since most children this age are overly empathetic and emotional. Yeah, when my son was in kindergarten, I had a parent-teacher conference with his teacher and she mentioned one of his strengths as being a genuinely nice kid. I thought this was pretty weak praise and was like, this is kindergarten, aren't they all nice? She looked me in the eyes and said, no. Observe how they treat vulnerable persons. Anyone who wants to make someone else's misfortune worse is miserable inside. Someone recently made fun of me, repeatedly, for having a dead father. They also threw their baby bunny onto a concrete driveway as a child. Some people are just born with black holes in the space where the rest of us keep our souls. That's a freaking psychopath. People who say cruel things under the guise of being brutally honest. Seems like they usually just like the brutal part, since you can be honest with someone but still use tact to convey your point. Deleted. I'm just here to see if I'm a horrible person. The fact that you care about being one suggests that you're not. When your best friend of almost 40 years, when hearing you have cancer and just oh well, you'll be okay, and then never hearing from them again. It's been almost 2 years since I was diagnosed and haven't heard from her once. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry to hear about that. I'm just an internet stranger, but I wish you the best and that you pull through this. Here's to a Merry Christmas and many more. Being mean to animals. You have to be a horrible piece of shit on the inside to hurt an animal that only wants you to love it. But being nice to animals also doesn't necessarily mean they're a good person. Compulsive liar. Deceitful and shady behavior, then putting it back on you when they've been found out. I can never move past the disgust I feel for someone of that character. The worst type of person. This 100%. They never seem to get any older, but a portrait of themselves has aged horribly. I look 10+ years younger than my age, and whenever anyone mentions it, I reference the portrait I have up in the attic. However, I hadn't read the book, and my husband didn't told me maybe I shouldn't use that reference anymore, hahaha. Jokes on him though, I am a terrible person. If they treat service industry people poorly. A person who's nice to you and a dick to the bartender isn't a nice person. A spot where I used to work created one of the savviest strategies I've ever seen for hiring higher level managers or executives. They'd have a candidate in, going through rounds of interviews. But something would come up, resulting in an unforeseen delay to the schedule. With all due apologies, our company would give them a voucher for a free lunch at the fine restaurant a block away. Where the restaurant staff, who worked for an executive's friend, would report back on their behavior. Being quiet was fine. Being chatty was fine. Being an asshole ended your chances of being hired. It was great because it showed the company how a candidate behaved under an unexpected sort of pressure, how they'd treat people below them, and whether they were a general asshole. I credit it with them having excellent management. Putting down others in order to build themselves up. So you met my ex, good to know. Bad-mouthing their children. My dad knows how to do this and does it well. Even after losing my 2 older brothers to drug overdoses, nothing has changed. I don't know if it would qualify a person as horrible. However, I find it frustrating when a person is talking to someone and no matter what he or she talk about, they always put themselves at the center of the conversation. My aunt is like this. I remember when my dad got really sick and was in the hospital for a month. When she talked to him or others, it was always about how she felt about my dad's sickness, not remotely concerned about how he felt. Shit, I'm autistic and I sometimes do this on accident. I try not to though, but sometimes awareness flies over my head. She could indeed be autistic. Constantly talking nonsense about whatever friends are not present at the time. This. If they'll bitch about other friends with you, they're bitching about you as well. If and when they are a completely different person around you and behind closed doors, but on good behavior in front of others. Yup. Shows they know exactly what a good normal person acts like, and they don't want to actually do it. When you get that vibe shift to super tense and negative when it's just you two, you're in bad company. 1. Affairs or cheating on their partner. 2. Adult children that won't talk to them. 3. Low-level shadiness that gets dismissed because it's low stakes. If they'll be shady for something small, you'd better believe they'll be shady when the stakes are actually high. The guy that will bullshit the waitress to get some of the bill can't will 100% bullshit your boss to get you blamed instead of him. Adult children that won't talk to them. I went no contact with my mom and she is a horrible person. I was wired to want that relationship. I wish I had a mom. I put up with years of abuse. If a grown child walks away, they have reasons. Whenever something good happens to you, they never congratulate you or are there for you. But whenever something bad happens, they will always be there to talk about the bad things going on in your life. Could you elaborate on this? I have a couple friends who have been super present when I've been through a bad breakup, depressed because a parent died, etc., but are impossible to get a hold of now that my life is going awesome. It's weird. I thought I would be more fun to be around now that everything has been smooth sailing for a few years, but it seems like they only wanted to hang when I was down. Easily 100% the biggest flag to me is people that don't treat service industry workers with the utmost respect. 100% it shows that they view certain people below them. I've literally left a date in the middle because of this. They take advantage of people who avoid conflict or can't stand up for themselves. Nothing is ever their fault. If they hurt someone, it's a reaction, not a choice. They are the victim, always. They don't want to hear about your feelings or perspective because at the end of the day they were justified. Their feelings are more important. Their perspective is the only correct one. You've met my mom? People who only talk about themselves and don't ask about you. When you do talk about yourself, it's blatantly obvious they are not listening and just waiting to talk again. Also, people who are rude and talk down to people. Gaslighting behavior, like constantly passively aggressively implying that you're the bad guy.